Shalom. This week's Torah portion, Vayechi, concludes the book of Bereshis, Genesis. Have the beautiful section of the blessings that the patriarch Yaakov gives over to his children before his death, and subsequently we read of the passing of the patriarch Jacob. You know, our sages make a very enigmatic statement about Yaakov Avinu, our patriarch Jacob. They say, Yaakov Avinu Lo Meis. The patriarch Jacob did not die. And of course, this has to be understood. It's obviously an allegorical teaching. It's obviously symbolic, because we read in chapter 50 of this Torah portion of the death and burial of Jacob. And our sages explain the concept behind this enigmatic statement, Jacob never died, is that death is a traumatic experience and an extreme passage for some people. But for Jacob, because he really lived on such a high level of existence in this world, it was for him no more than taking off one garment and donning another. This is the expression of our sages of blessed memory, that he actually was so close to the next world while living in this world that Yaakov Avinu, Lo Meis, the patriarch Jacob, our father, didn't die, because it was practically no difference to him, because he was already living on such a rarefied level of connection to God in this world that it was practically imperceptible, because he already was in the next world, in this world. And that is really a very beautiful way of looking at things, but when we are really serious and think about this, we could ask a really good question about this. It doesn't really make all that much sense. Because look at the life of the patriarch Jacob, who was considered to be really the perfection of the patriarchs, who was considered to be the one to really start processes of rectification and motion, to really get things going for the future of Jewish people, and thus to bring about the redemption for the world. Look at his life. It was just one sustained succession of trouble and travail and really agony. He had the trouble with Esav. He had to escape. He had trouble with Lavan, who tricked him. He had the trouble with Dinah. He had the trouble with Joseph. And our sages enumerate all of these things that happened to him, these calamities, these chapters that added to a tapestry of really woe, so that every step of the way, Yaakov was dogged by mishaps, by trouble, by conspiracies, by subterfuge, and his life really on that level could read like a catalog of misery and suffering. But yet our sages tell us, Yaakov Avinu Lo Meis, our forefather Jacob, for all practical purposes, you can't really say it about him that he died, because while he was yet in this world, he was really enjoying a level of consciousness and perception and spiritual emancipation as if he was already in the next world. Now, how can you say that about someone like Yaakov, whose life was fraught with so much travail and so much difficulty, who suffered so much for his children? Unless, of course, we realize that the answer is looking right at us in the face, and that is that Yaakov was so connected to the blessings that God promised him, that he would be with him throughout everything, that he would return him to that land, and that his children would begin to fulfill all of the promises that he gave about the future of the people of Israel. Unless we realize that Yaakov's perception of everything that was happening to him did not in any way diminish the conscious level that he lived on, as far as being with one foot really in the next world. Because when a person realizes that everything that happens to us is from Hashem, that everything is part of a master plan, that everything does make sense, and that we are not abandoned, and that even if we can't perceive it on any level at all, except for what we can see with our own eyes, we understand somehow that God keeps his word, that God is always with us. This was the level of the patriarch Jacob, who, after living a life of such suffering, really, that more than anyone, he really personified this concept of of travail and woe and trouble after trouble when we examine his life. Lavan and Esav and Dinah and Joseph and the separation from Joseph. Yet Yaakov Avinu Lo Meis, Yaakov, our forefather, the patriarch Jacob, really did not die. He had a foot in the next world even while in this world, because he had already mastered the greatest secret of life, the secret of being a little bit in the next world while we're still here, and that is to know that everything that happens to us has a purpose, that we're always connected to God, we're never abandoned, and that everything in God's ultimate plan is an aspect of the perfection that he has in store for each and every one of us.